What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new episode of Moving with Life. Andy here, and today I'm gonna touch on this book, Dream Proof by Andy Stumpf, for the last time. At least that's the goal. And then one of the points I want to drive home, I think it's the most important one. I really do, for the sake of congruency with the podcast. And it's not about toughness, it's not about training necessarily, or even discipline necessarily. It's involved, but it's not only that. When you are bombarded with what appears to be people succeeding more than you are, it can drive you toward a very tenuous mental state. You will be tempted to constantly ask yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't these things happening to me? The truth is, you aren't doing anything wrong. Social media is not real. It is a curated feed. Not only can people choose what they show you, they can manipulate how they show it to you. I'm going to say it again because I do not think it can be said enough. Social media is not real. I believe that social media should come with a warning label and exposure limits, just like life-saving medications that can have toxic effects when used outside their maximum dosage. I believe that every few minutes, these platforms should be required to warn you of not only the addictive nature of their product, but also how much they can warp your perception of reality and self-worth. In addition to all those things, I think that what I dislike most about social media ecosystem is that it undervalues and disguises the most single important reality that we all need to face. There is no replacement for hard work. When I read that specific passage, that's when I obviously marked it, and I was like, I need to remember this for myself. I need to. For me, it's not always social media. Again, videos, YouTube, and lately over time, obviously they got me. YouTube Shorts, I follow very specific pages that I like, whether it's music, photography, so on. And I think it's getting better. The curation is becoming basically the algorithm that's going to keep your attention for the longest. It's not always necessarily, I think, what it used to be, where these influencers and so on. I'm pretty sure they still exist, but I know I don't follow them on my feeds, where you learned and you found out that these people were like leasing big houses to seem like they make a lot of money, or fancy cars, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, so on and so forth, to show a lifestyle that you could have if you just did these things. Some people did accomplish that because they were using the content they made to then show what they did with their money, essentially. That's not always the case. And again, I think it's getting better, but nonetheless, the curation and the algorithm getting more specific. And for today's point, really, for the main point I want to start with, is the way he said it, is that social media is not real. It is curated. And I've heard this even from content creators, we'll say more photographers that I follow, because especially Peter McKinnon, I've heard where he mentions where he wants his Instagram feed to be a certain way and a certain style and so on. The point is that the angle is selected, the perception, whatever the person is talking about on an Instagram reel or YouTube short. And I think that falls more under the what I'm thinking in my head is like the politics and stuff like that. Because again, I try really hard to clean out I actually just unfollowed a bunch of pages and so on my YouTube channel, because I want to be less distracted with what I see in my subscribed feed. I want my timeline to feel less manipulative, I guess is the right word. Andy Stumpf mentioned in there where there should be warning notifications and exposure limits, and I think, this is pure opinion, I think that we're all waiting for Congress to come up with a bill to make this happen, to make social media companies take more accountability for what's actually happening when people get into their apps and whatnot. And this kind of ties in 2 points. It was written as 2 separate points, but I think it's kind of combined, where companies want to be at least I would like that to happen, where the company itself I should have the discipline to be able to lock my phone and get back to work. Whether it's the podcast for me, reading a book, which this helped me. This book literally helped me a lot to do that. But then there's a lot of young people that I do personally see where there's a batch of, I'll say kids, they're probably about 20 to 25, 19 to 24, 21 to 26, that kind of range where their self-esteem, their attention span, emotional stability, a lot of these are very rocky for them, and come bringing in the parenting factor and so on, being more vigilant on the time spent, not just what the content is, but how much time is. The good thing is it is available. I create even limits on my phone where apps close at a certain time. I can open them. I try my best not to. It is possible. So that's where the discipline comes in. But nonetheless, what's it doing to your brain? And so that's the part where companies are aiming for your attention to get in, to be a part of your daily habit, to be a part of whatever it may be, whether it's this person versus that person, this politics versus that politics, right versus wrong. Nonetheless, when over time this little, again, he says like ecosystem, it is created. And I've touched on that, I think, over the past few weeks in various ways and aspects where that ecosystem does exist. That willpower is one thing, but when we know that the aim is to basically bypass that willpower, it's a thing. So what can we do? How can we challenge this? How can we take this as a challenge to try to develop the system, something that will get us into a direction that's not so scroll driven, we'll say. And it's the way he ending the section, going into that next part of the chapter. There is no replacement for hard work. Now, something I've brought up to even my students CCD, where we've talked about goals and aspirations, and I try to drive to them because they are kids. I try to drive to them that they need a purpose. And while I'm still trying, I think while I'm trying to find the right words to define my purpose, it's the matter of fact that if I can help imprint on them that, hey, purpose is good, I hope that their self-esteem will be just lifted a little bit more. I hope that I can put in this little bit of positivity. Mind you, one thing I thought about last night as I was trying to prep this podcast was just the matter of fact that I'm assuming I don't know, I literally don't know, is what apps do they even use now? What apps do you all use nowadays? I don't know. But to really back to hard work and purpose, I think when you have that purpose of your real life, like one of mine is getting through the CCD coursework, and most of it was, yes, I was going with the book for some of the things, but then it's like, okay, how can I tie in the scripture for that Sunday? How many times have I listened to preemptively that will help me drive the point home of whatever chapter we're on, or if there's something that I felt is more correlative with how we're feeling for the day or the holiday or so on, then I was usually go that route. That's my example of, at the minimum, there's no replacement for doing the work. And Seth Godin has talked about this, Peter McKinnon has talked about this, Albert Jocko talks about this. And the cool thing, again, I think we're coming, not full circle, but I think our circle is continuing to move where even with AI, I've listened to enough podcasts and ideas and thoughts behind it where even what's being pushed on the media is this scare tactic, the scare factor. And so when I have conversations with my friends, with my wife, about where we're actually going, these things are tools. Social media does try to steal your attention. They literally have. And so it might not be it's not going to be as easy as how can I get my attention back, but it's going to be a hard stop on what's my purpose in life? What am I doing? What am I aiming for? And some of that might be, again, me, it was also bringing back writing a little bit, and I try to write it as it is, but I realized I hadn't written in like over a month, and that can be normal for me, but nonetheless, when I saw it, it's like, oh, I've been away for too long from this paper, and I need to write. So I got my pen out and I wrote, kind of caught myself up. Nonetheless, social media is dangerous. Yes, there are ways to recover some of that self. Yes, but nonetheless, I hope that as we close out today's episode and we get to the end for today, reality is not what is your algorithm. I think there's a lot of wholesome algorithms out there. I think they exist because there's some funny things out there. I like comedy, so on and so forth. But the reality is, okay, what are we aiming for? What's my purpose? And I think I'm still searching for my definition of that. But my purpose is moving with life. And it's what it's been. It's why it's still here. It's why I still haven't changed the title or tried to rebrand or anything like that. It's just like, no, like, this is what it is now. This is where we're at now. This is where I'm at now. And huge kudos and thank you to Andy Stumpf for this book, Drown Proof: 8 life lessons to keep your head above water. Can't recommend it enough. I don't get anything for this, but it's okay because I know what I will take from it. So nonetheless, attention traps, being honest with yourself, self-esteem, self-esteem, all these little bullet points. I am asking you, try to bring yourself back, whatever your reality is, not only the one that you scroll through. You made it this far. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing. I think I've gained a couple of subscribers, which I appreciate. Thank you very much. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Spotify. If you do follow on Spotify, leave a rating. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep moving with life.